Hi, hello, welcome back. My name's Devaraj, and welcome back to this series. I'm calling it Reichian Treatment Notes, where we're going through the 5 Reichian character types and just looking at them in a kind of updated way, and also, looking at the kind of direction the treatment can take. Whether you recognize this character type in yourself or you're working as a therapist, this kind of thing. I just wanted to share a little bit of the knowledge I've thus far accrued. So this week we're going to go on to number 3 and look at the Endurer character type, or the enduring pattern survival strategy, formerly known as the masochist in the kind of the old days of Freud and Reich and this kind of thing. Not a very useful and rather pathologizing title, I find. The Endurer, I still have Endurer traits, and it scares me, basically. But, when we consider like the kind of dynamics between these character types, the Endurer and the aggressive is a very, very strong dynamic that emerges. The aggressives tend to be leading stuff, they're at the front and they're bringing their energy up and forwards, and maybe if they've got a team to lead, they really want to motivate the team and get them behind the project, get them communicating. And the Endurer is just like their worst nightmare. To have an Endurer or even 2 Endurers on a team, you're going to really struggle to create anything very much. And the Endurer is going to be subtly trying. He might be saying yes on the surface, but not with a ton of enthusiasm. And that he's somewhere subtly going to be trying to drag the whole thing down a bit, or slow it up, or kind of bitching and complaining in the sidelines, and so the side of me that's aggressive, driving forward, really struggles with the Endurer. And the side of me that is still an Endurer struggles sometimes with the super alpha types out there. But let's look a little bit more deeply at the Endurer, because the Endurer personality, what's interesting about it is, it comes along chronologically third. Basically, we've seen the leaving pattern often originating in the womb experience. We've seen the oral or merging pattern coming out of the first year of life and the bond with the mother. And the Endurer happens really in the immediate egoic phase from around 1.5 or 2 years onwards. Because at this age, what happens is we somehow partition, when we're born, it's like, whoa, and we don't have a sense of personal selfhood. We don't know who we are on any level. It's just this vast kind of cosmic experience that we're being hurled into. But around the age of 1.5 or so, we start to develop an ego, and we do this by essentially partitioning our experience off. So you've got the kind of common parts of experience which other people have, which is the sensory stuff. Other people see what's going on outside and happening around you and that kind of thing. And then you've got your inner world, which is kind of ruled over or presided over by the ego, by I, the sense of me. And so this is a phase when you first come into the concept, in infant development, of having agency, of having a self and being able to do something. And of course, if you've got kids, I don't actually have kids, but if you've got kids, then how this manifests usually is by the child saying no a lot. And hence we have the expression terrible twos. The kid, suddenly experiences, hey, I've got agency. I can have agency by doing this partition and running things like this inside my brain. I've got agency. And it's like, Dad wants you to do this? No. Mum wants you to go and get this? No. And you just don't want to do it, and you're going to scream and you're going to have a tantrum and a huge freak out. Now, this stage of child development is very important because, of course, kids need boundaries. They need boundaries to protect themselves and also to develop. But if those boundaries are overheld at this point, if the parents go in or one parent goes in like, I'm absolutely not having my child say no to me, it's going to obey me, then this is what tends to create the Endurer personality. They actually break the child's ego at the time when it is just forming and just developing. And this overhanded, heavy-handed control methods that parents used to use and still do sometimes, creates the Endurer personality. And the Endurer then basically goes through life. They may become quite muscly, but their muscles don't develop to kind of go out into the world and do stuff. Their muscles develop to suppress the rage, basically, to suppress all the emotionality inside that the healthy ego is having, but which has been blocked. Basically, they have learned in the first 3 years of their life or so, that it is not safe to be me. It is not safe to be me. I don't have the right to be me, and if I try to be me, I'm going to get squashed. I'm going to get squashed. So this is the core, and once you understand this, you understand the endurer personality very deeply. And so, like I say, this person will go through life. They often have learned that they need to please others, but underneath, of course, there's a powder keg of anger there, because whenever we experience any level of invasion, or we perceive any level of invasion, physical, psychological, sexual, whatever, anger is the natural response to push the invader out, and to maintain safe boundaries. Now, so there's a huge amount of anger inside the endurer, but it is denied and pushed down, and they have a compliant kind of personality. They may be the gentle giant type, just, getting along with life, but underneath it they will complain. They will have to try and leak some of this energy out somehow, but not in actual competitive, not actually standing up and saying, hey, I think you're wrong, we should be doing this. No, they'll just kind of, dig away in the background and that kind of thing. So, you may recognize the side of yourself which is like this. You may have friends which are endurers. You may have colleagues at work who, clearly have this model. So, having articulated it a little bit, what can we do about the endurer, essentially? And let me just pick up my notes here. There are certain core things. Really, for the endurer, it's also quite cognitive and mental. I'm working a lot with the body and bioenergetics, but for endurers in particular, they do need to understand the condition and recognize it in themselves, usually. And the reason for that is because if you start to just go in with body work, and emotional expression, a lot of anger is going to start to rise up, and they're going to straight away push it down, and they're going to be very afraid under the surface, and the chances are they're just going to leave the therapy. They're just going to walk out the door. They're not, that they came along to therapy because they thought they should, probably, but if that level of anger starts to come up and they're not ready for it, it's going to be scary, and it's going to freak them out, and they're going to be out of there. So really, for most endurers, they have to do some level of, acquire some level of cognitive understanding of the endurer condition and what's going on inside of it first, before they can really make steps. Because they have to realize rationally that there's going to be a powder keg of anger in there, an unexploded bomb in there, and that then their job is to, follow along with the therapy and to diffuse that charge of energy inside slowly and in a safe way, so that they don't feel, that they're freaking out. Basically, it's not freaking them out. And the other part of this cognitive process is to accept that their emotions have validity, that they have validity, and they have a right to exist. Because their first experience of having an ego age 1.5, 2 was it was squashed down, and they learned it is dangerous to be me. So they have to also learn to value their selves. You can get up in the mirror and say, hey, I'm worth it. I have the right to feel. My feelings are important. Very, very important phrase for the endurer. They can literally repeat it to themselves over and over again, so it goes in. That is the useful thing to do for the endurer. My feelings are important. And once they've got these two aspects, that their feelings are valuable and important, and they want their feelings, their honest feelings, and they have a right to them, and that there will likely be huge amounts of anger inside, then the endurer can start to make progress. So, the kind of exercises that you can look at really are exercises which start to bring up feelings, because it's all been pushed down. But they bring them up not in such a way that it's overwhelming for the person, but it's a bit coming up. It's like you've got this big kind of compression of energy, and you want to let it out. But if you let it out too fast, it's going to be scary, and it's going to be too scary, and it's going to provoke reactions. It may provoke outbursts, anger, even violence, and you don't want that. So what you want to do is to let it off slow, so they get a feel for it, and then they can let a bit more off, and then they can come to a real place of wholeness, able to hold safe boundaries, able to put their energy out in a constructive and useful way, and they don't need to kind of backbite and complain or any of this stuff. So the kinds of strategies you might be looking at straight away, are things like gibberish, for example, is a great way to take the mind out of its normal objective mindset, and you just make like a fake language, so it's like, if you don't speak Japanese, for example, or Arabic, you try to speak Japanese or Arabic based on how it sounds, like I can't speak a bit, but that's not the point. But like, you basically just make sound. You just allow like a fake language to come out, and you walk around a bit, you move your hands a bit, you gesticulate a little bit with it, and this allows some level of emotional tension to come up, and you just see if it's overwhelming or not. You know, you can also do it with other people, not fighting them in gibberish, but just allowing yourself to gibber to other people, just allowing it starts to allow the emotions to flow, because the conscious mind, this kind of controlling side, which is very strong in the Endura, is taken to the side for a little while. It's taken to the side for a little while by the gibberish. Another great exercise, which again, is not really a part of bioenergetics or body work, is morning pages. I forget the name of the person that created this in America, but the basic concept is you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is you get 3 sheets of A4 and you just write stuff. You just write whatever is on your mind without interpreting it, without censoring it, without analyzing it. You just literally let yourself just put it out for 10 minutes or something like this. And if you want to, you can read it or you can destroy it, whatever you want, but just it's a basic level of mental catharsis. And this can again be very useful. It starts to allow the energy of emotion to flow. Emotions and your body energy are very, very interconnected. And the Endurance used to pushing down. We want to get it to flow, but we don't want it to be overwhelming. In addition, you can look at exercises like Get Off My Back, which is you'll find somewhere in my bioenergetics series here, but there's a couple of ways of doing it. One way you can do it is kneeling with your ass up, so your ass not on your heels. Kneeling with your ass up, you begin to dig backwards with your elbows, and you literally say, in the language you spoke as a kid, get off my back. And you can free associate. You can make sound, quite loud sound, you can scream and shout and swear if it's appropriate in the environment you're in. Just get off my back. With this exercise, what's important is that you don't rotate your whole body around. People often do this, but that you kind of keep your chest facing front and you dig backwards, one elbow, then the other, or a couple of digs with one and then the other. And what you'll often get is a kinesthetic sensation of someone being on your back. A parent, adult, other authority figure. Literally, it feels like they're there, and that's when it's good. That's when it's good. That's when it's moving something. So you just stick at it. You only need to do like a minute, or 2 minutes, of this kind of exercise. And if you find it's bringing up too much, then just slacken off. Just slacken off. Don't overdo it. Take responsibility. Take responsibility. Another way you can do the get off my back exercise that's great is kicking. So you come into tabletop position, hands down underneath the shoulders, and knees down underneath the hips, and you kick back. I'm not going to demonstrate it here, I haven't quite got space, but you kick backwards and slightly up, making sure, of course, there's nothing behind you. And again, you say the words in the language you spoke as a kid, get off my back. One leg, a couple of kicks, then the other leg, a couple of kicks. Get off my back. You may again feel like a kinesthetic sensation, something moving from your back as you do this. And again, you only need to do it for 1-2 minutes maximum. With both of these exercises, the first couple of digs or the first couple of kicks, don't overdo it. Just check it out that you're not going to hurt yourself, particularly if you've got a history of physical injury in these areas. And generally with endurers, what you're looking to do is start to get in towards anger at some point, to the point where they can really start to make sound and put it out, and it's not overwhelming. And once then, as with, the endurance, a classic one of it, but with so many people, what you're really trying to do is just get the charge out of the muscle system in a healthy way. So their mind isn't constantly hijacked into kind of, corrective, defensive, avoidant behaviors. Basically, you can absolutely treat the endurer. It's not often easy simply because such a level of conditioning has gone in from themselves as well as from the parents or the outside. Okay, I hope you're enjoying this series on Reichian treatment notes. Do remember I have a book, Bioenergetics Part 1, Healing Trauma and Conditioning, available from my website. And also, if you really want to get into bioenergetics for like a year or two, then do check out my 52-week course. It's an online course with support from me ongoingly. And it's a 52-week course, but for the average person, it would probably take them about two years to complete. So you get a lot of content. It's got theory in there and it's got a lot of exercises. Okay, cool. Thank you for tuning in, and I will speak to you again soon.